everyone to another episode of Level Up with Gal. Today we have an amazing special guest joining the show. Please welcome Jaclyn Jacobsen to join us, who is a Reiki healer, psychic medium, tarot card reader, and a beautiful nutritionist. How are you doing, Jack, and how are you feeling today?
I am doing great, my love. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super grateful to be here.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys are going to love her after this episode as much as I love her. This is exactly why she's here today. So, Jack, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about myself. Well, like you said, I am a Reiki Master, psychic medium, integrative nutritionist. So essentially, in my business, I help people find balance and alignment between their physical, emotional, and spiritual bodies along their healing journey. I started my journey probably as a kid. I was born a medium, which was difficult, being raised as a Catholic. Being taught from a very young age to be afraid of a part of who I actually was. And I've struggled like throughout my own healing journey with anorexia, with being raised by a very physically abusive, narcissistic mother, being raised in a very chaotic environment where my parents were very abusive to each other. Experiencing poverty, lack of food, also paralysis when I was 20 years old. I mean, there's just so much to my story to like tell. But throughout my struggle and my life experience, I've found that there's so much beauty to be had in my trauma, and I try to help people dive deep into their trauma or any traumatic experience that they've gone through and translate that into a shining light to share with others, to inspire and help other people on their respective healing journeys.
I love that. No, and I want to dive in deeper to your journey because I think it's going to help so many people realize that, sometimes they see someone who's like entrepreneur, right? And they think, oh, they didn't go through anything, look at them glowing and shining bright, but it's the crap that you've been through, right? Which is where you're at. So your journey, I relate to that so much. I was like, oh my gosh, like you're speaking to my soul. So many people I'm sure are listening to can relate to your story, and you mentioned you were born a medium. So if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about that, how did you know that?
That's a really good question. I get asked that all the time. The way that I knew was my parents would see me talking to basically thin air, and I would see spirit just like I see you, full bodied, normal person. It was very natural for me to see spirit just like I see you now. And I only could translate that like mentally as I got older, because I was realizing like not everyone could see what I was seeing or who I was seeing. Being raised Catholic, and when I would talk about what I was seeing, I was, like I said, I was taught to fear that gift. And eventually I shut it off, probably around the age of like 7 or 8. That's kind of like the short answer of how I knew I was a medium.
Yeah, wow. And it's funny you bring that up because I was literally talking to my brother-in-law who has had similar experience as you. He's like, I see them like they're a human form. So it's like people think I'm crazy, and sometimes he struggle with knowing if they were like a real person or not. So how did you know like if that's a spirit or if that's an actual person?
That's a good question. So when you see someone walking through a wall, I mean, you kind of know they're not a physical human being, who's alive. Also, I would see family members that had crossed over and went home, especially my grandfather, my mom's father. He passed away when I was 18 months old, but he and I had a very close connection, even though he was only in the physical world for a short period of time by the time I had come into the physical world. So I would see him repeatedly, and he would tell me different things to convey to my parents, especially my mom, because she was close with her dad. And I would tell her things that there was no way I could possibly know, especially at the age of like 3 or 4.
Mhm.
And I would deliver these messages on days where she was really struggling emotionally with the loss, thinking about him, et cetera, et cetera. And this would happen with other deceased family members, and I would deliver messages. So that's kind of how I knew like that the person was no longer with us in physical form versus an actual human being.
Wow. Yeah. How
Mhm.
crazy. And you were so young. Like, I haven't heard of anyone actually knowing at that age, you know?
Yeah. So, I think like as I got older, I like definitely knew, because at 3 or 4, like you're not complete, you can't comprehend that type of information. But I've found that after speaking with a few other mediums that I'm friends with and that I've worked with in the past, we tend to have like a very vivid memory of our younger years, especially if we interact with spirit. So it's almost like we operate at like a higher mental level. Like I can remember, I have very distinct memories from the time I was like 2 and 3 in preschool. Like I can remember the majority of my childhood very, very clearly, and the interactions I had with spirit. Um, so I think there's just a higher knowing when you're a medium versus when you're not.
Mm. Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Great. I'm like, I want to remember what life was like when I was 2 or 3. Yeah. And I love how you're explaining, because a lot of people, when they think of mediumship, they're like,
Mhm.
that is so scary. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so what would you say to someone like that who's like, maybe I'm a medium, but I'm afraid of it? What would you say to them?
Yeah. So being a medium can be very scary, especially if you are growing up in an environment where the gift isn't fostered.
Mhm.
Like for me, like I said, I was raised Catholic. So my parents, or specifically my mom, taught me to fear the gift and just pretend like it didn't exist. So if you're afraid to step into mediumship, what I would say is number one, do your due diligence and research, right?
Mhm.
Allow yourself to open up a little bit to it. So the first step I took when I was opening back up to my mediumship was I read a lot of books from other experienced mediums, because it helped me feel connected to the gift, but also connected to these other mediums who are very public about their gift and also shared their experience with their mediumship as it progressed throughout their life cycle.
Mhm.
Um, and then once I got comfortable and felt connected to these people, I started exploring kind of expanding the gift. Um, the second thing I would say is boundaries.
Mm.
Okay, so just like we all learn how to set healthy boundaries with living people in our life, setting healthy boundaries with spirit is equally important. So you always want to make sure that you're specific in when you're asking who to talk to. Like if you're just sitting there and being like, yeah, whoever wants to come chat with me, like, let's do it. You don't know who the hell you're inviting in. Okay. But so if you really want to set a very specific intention that you communicate with a specific person, and you ask your higher power, whatever that may be to you, right? Because you have to feel connected to it.
Mhm.
Um, protect you during the conversation and only allowing the specific person you want to talk to come in and have a conversation.
That makes sense. So they're not
Mhm.
just all common, right?
Right. It's kind of like the concept of a Ouija board, right? Like a Ouija board doesn't have to be a dangerous divination tool. It's all in how you use it, the
Mhm.
intention behind it, and specificity of intent. So, specificity of intent is something that I talk a lot about in my mediumship workshop, with people who are wanting to develop their mediumship skill set. So, specificity of intent is literally what I just explained to you, where you are being very specific in what you're looking for in the session, who you want to communicate with, and establishing a boundary of protection, asking that of your higher power or the archangel, spirit guides, again, whatever or whoever you align with as your divine protection. Um, so, yeah, so that's what I would say if anyone's trying to tap in their mediumship.
Yeah. And I love how you explain it because it doesn't sound so scary when you explain it. Like, oh, it's actually really cool.
Yeah, well,
You know?
a big part of I feel like, and this is no judgment whatsoever. I'm a very transparent person. And
Mhm.
I feel like over time, the spiritual community has gotten this, or mediums or psychics, witches, et cetera, have gotten a really bad rap in that we are like weird, or we're supposed to look a certain way, dress all in black, have like all these tattoos, be really pale and wear dark gothic makeup. And hey, if
Mhm.
that's your shtick, like go for it. Like if that's how you love yourself, more power to you. But for me, I want to normalize psychic abilities, whether you're a medium, whether you're a clairvoyant, just a psychic, an empath, whatever your special gift is. Because it's just a natural, it's just very natural. Like it should be normalized 110% because it's a part of who you are.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because some people are so afraid of it, or they think
Mhm.
the first word I always hear, they're like, it's weird, it's creepy, I can't physically touch it, so it's not real. I'm like, well, that's not
Mhm.
necessarily true.
Mhm.
you know, so definitely more reason why I have like you on the show. I want people to realize that it's not so scary and
Mhm.
how healing it really is. Like you
Mhm.
explaining too how connecting with someone and watching like for your people that you saw that passed over in your family,
Mhm.
and how healing that could be, because a lot of people don't want to tap into that. But then there's
Right.
people like you who are tapped into that. Hey, if
Right.
you're scared, you don't have to talk to them. I'll talk to them for you, right?
Mhm.
So I love that. And how you explain it in simple terms. Like it's not, creepy. You don't have to wear a bunch of crystals, right?
Right.
To be a psychic and a medium.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just, if I can do anything for your viewers, is again just the self-acceptance piece with your gifts.
Mhm.
Like that you are not weird, you are a unique individual with a very special talent and gift that you were born with, and it's a part of you. So just accept it.
I love that. So you knew you were a medium when you were younger. So when did you know like you wanted to get more in depth into the spiritual world to become a
Mhm.
Reiki healer, read tarot cards and all that?
Yeah, that didn't happen until my late 20s. So I took the conventional path. Like once I shut my mediumship off, I would still have a lot of psychic or paranormal experiences.
Mhm.
Like just because you shut your mediumship off doesn't mean spirit isn't like knocking at your door saying, "I know you can hear me." Like,
Mhm.
but I would ignore it, and then eventually like those experiences would dissipate. So from the time I was like, and I guess pre-adolescent all the way through like my late 20s, I did the very like conventional life. I went to school, I went to college, I got a job, 9 to 5. And I just lived like a very normal life, uh,
Mm.
normal life. But when I was, I guess, in my late 20s, um, crystals had started becoming very popular, and one of my friends took me in a crystal shop, and I just like my energy just lit up. I was like, oh my gosh, like look at all these like beautiful crystals. And then I saw an angel oracle deck, and I'm like, like in the back of my mind, my Catholic mind, I was like, that's like evil, I shouldn't do that. But then my intuition was just drawing me to it so much. It's like, you know what, like I feel good about this, and I'm gonna, so I bought my first angel deck, and then I started working with crystals secretly, because again, my family is very cautious around this type of stuff. And then it was a very slow progression. I would say over from the time I was 27, I'm 34 now, up until 29, I like very slowly like dipped my feet in like my spirituality. And by the time I was 29, I was reading tarot, I was working with crystals, but this was all on a personal level. This is way before the Holistic Siren, my business, came to be. Um, and then in 2020, the whole world shifted, right? Like everyone went inside, literally, like you couldn't leave your house really. But a lot of people also went inward, like
Yeah.
inside of themselves, right? And during that time, I completely stepped away from my private nutrition practice I had at the time. So you mentioned I do have my master's in nutrition dietetics. I am an integrative nutritionist and have been so since 2016. Um, But I took a step back from my nutrition practice. And for that entire year, I focused on my spirituality. I traveled. I really wanted to understand why I had this deep, not even interest, this deep passion for, number one, helping people. For number two, what this passion toward like tarot, toward crystals, toward, really stepping back into my mediumship, et cetera, et cetera. So that, again, that's when the progression started speeding up a lot. And in 2020, that's when the Holistic Siren was born. And I started on my path of professionally becoming a Reiki master, doing Reiki session healings, doing tarot card readings, and doing some group workshop stuff.
I love that. So it's like you dipped into it a little bit and then it just bloomed.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's journey is so different. And it depends on your background, right? And how willing you are to step out of your comfort zone. But the more that I was willing to step out of my comfort zone, the more expansion I saw in every area of my life, especially my spirituality.
Oh, I love that. So can you share with us if there was a certain like medium out there or just anybody who really inspired you to really dive deeper?
Yeah. So Conchetta Bertoli is the biggest inspiration for me. She's also from New Jersey, where I am from originally. And she did not come, I believe, did not come into her mediumship until much later in life, like mid-age, I think. But she had the gift for, I think when she was younger, she shut it off. So her story is somewhat similar to mine. But what I love about her is that, and I wish I could remember her book that I read a couple of years ago. But anyway, she is just this like older, like Jersey Italian woman. She just lives her life with her husband. Like, you know what I mean? She really normalized being a medium. She's like, yeah, like I do this as, my job. I write books about it. And, like, yeah, I talk to dead people. It's not a big deal. Like, whatever. Typical Jersey accent that's coming out for me right now. But she just normalized it. And that's why I was so drawn to her. I've read a lot of different books from a lot of different mediums, but she resonated the most with me, probably because she's from Jersey, or upstate New York, but it's basically means the same thing. Jersey, New York. But she's just a normal run-of-the-mill person who made it seem like it was just not a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So many people, like you said earlier, make it scary or weird or evil or something. And she was like, yeah, it's just part of my life.
Right. I love that, and more people need to hear that. Like you're afraid of what you don't know. Right. And it's like, the more you hear about it, the more it's like, oh, it's not so scary, and nothing's so scary. It's just, you don't know it. So you think, and it's easier to throw that label of like, okay, anything spiritual it's weird, right?
Yeah.
Or it's creepy, but it's really not. So, and I love how you explain like your normal, whatever you want to call it, normal. Like you're explaining it and you're not sitting here with a witch hat, or something like
Yeah.
that to scare people.
Yeah. I mean, I have my crystals, but I'm in a sweatshirt and leggings and I'm like just in my house, just chilling, doing my thing. Like it's
Right. You're not wearing a sign on your back like, hey,
right. Like there's no, and listen, the pentagram is actually a very sacred symbol, but I'm not like, all covered in like, witch garb and all of that. Like there is no witch garb or medium garb or dress or whatever. It just, whatever reflects your own personal style. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And I like that too, because some people think you're going to look a certain way, or if you
Mm-hmm.
don't, you're not a real medium and a real psychic, but that's not true at all.
Mm-hmm.
So, will you share a little bit about like all the services that you provide and how people can learn a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest way to find my services and work with me is on my website, theholisticsirene.com. Holistic is with a W. But as far as what I provide, there are three main things. So there are classes and workshops. So I do certify people in Reiki 1 and 2 and at the master level. In addition to that, I've taken my nutrition expertise and I also certify people in chakra nutrition and chakra wellness. So I help people understand the endocrine aspect of the chakra alignment, meaning which endocrine gland is associated with that energy center, and how keeping it healthy through nutrition, self-care, movement of the body actually supports emotional and spiritual healing and balance. I also certify people in tarot. So I have a 12-week tarot program. And my most recent and actually most popular workshop that I'm doing is called How to Be a Healer. So the How to Be a Healer workshop is a 4-week program where I teach people how to do really deep dives in their own shadow work and translating that into helping other and working with other people do their deep dives on their healing journeys as well. I teach them how to communicate and connect with higher level entities. So spirit guides, ascended masters, angels, their higher power. I also teach them how to read different energies, how to set energetic boundaries with people who are living, people who are past, and any other energies that are surrounding them day to day. And that includes a lot of journal prompts. It's a very interactive workshop, and we take a lot of really, really deep dives. And then my last workshop is my mediumship development workshop. So it's a 4-week program where I work with people who are mediums to gingerly step into their gift and connect with people in a small group format. So they have that moral support, not only from me, but other people who are on a similar journey, but also learning again, how to set those boundaries with spirit, how to conduct different sessions. What type of medium are you? How do you want to use your mediumship to be of service to others? Because you have the gift not only to support your healing journey, but also to support the healing journeys of other people. And then also self-acceptance is a big part of that workshop as well, because there is so much stigma and fear around mediumship as a gift specifically. So I help people work through that as well.
I love that. And I love you offer, a little bit over here and there, and depending on whatever people need, right?
Right. Yes, correct.
Yeah. So if you wanted the whole package, do the whole package, right?
Yeah, do the whole package. Yeah, the whole package would be working with me one-on-one. And that is something where I really have to check in with your energy. So I actually vet people energetically if they want to work with me one-on-one or not. Because if I'm interacting with someone and it doesn't feel in alignment for me, I'm not going to continue to work with that person.
Yeah, I love that. I'm just gonna bring someone on and bring someone on to work.
Right, exactly.
Mhm. Yeah. And I love that because a lot of people don't do that, like
Yeah.
money, take it, right? But it just really shows that you're coming from the heart and I can.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, money can be a very big driver, especially in any space. Let me not even say the spiritual space. But there has to be a healthy balance, right? Like as long as I've trusted the universe to provide for me financially, I've always had plenty of business and I've never run into an issue, and I'm sticking with that strategy.
Yeah. If it's working, right? You can keep it going.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So what advice would you give to someone who's like kind of curious about their spiritual world, but there's so much knowledge out there? What would you say to them? Where to start?
That's a really good question. My first piece of advice would be to grab their journal
Mhm.
and write down why.
Mm.
Why do they want to step into their spirituality and explore it? What is their objective? What is their goal?
Mhm.
Because if you don't have a clear objective and goal with regard to stepping into anything, you're going to step into all these different subject matters and have no idea where to start and get really confused.
Yeah.
So that would be my first step, is figuring out your why. Once you figure out your why, then I would look to related topics in the spiritual space to see what can support your why. All
Mm.
right. So let me think of a good example. Um, like let's say you're having like psychic experiences. We're talking about mediumship a lot, so let's talk about mediumship.
Yeah.
So if you're having psychic experiences, if you feel like spirit is trying to deliver messages to you, what I would say is, why do you want to step further into your gift? Is it because you want to be of service? Is it because you want to help spirit cross over and you want to deliver those messages? What is the why? How is it conducive to your healing journey? Right. And then where I would go is, like I said earlier, do your research and see what medium aligns with you and read one of their books,
Mm.
right? Step into that. maybe you even want to look for like mediumship basics, right? As a book, and see different meditations you can do to step in and to harness the gift, right? And then maybe go as far as going on social media. And when you do that, making sure you tap in with your heart space. I say this every TikTok live I do or YouTube reading. Always tap in with your heart space and make sure you feel connected with that psychic, medium, reader, whoever it is. If that person doesn't feel in alignment, keep swiping. Like, just keep scrolling. That is very, very important. And watching people who you feel in alignment, who are doing something you feel called to do, is going to build your confidence and courage in stepping into that arena even more so, if that makes sense. So that's where I would tell people to start.
I love that. No, that makes sense. Just because there's so much information out there, and there's so many psychic mediums, spiritual healers on TikTok.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
many.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I like that you say, just keep swiping if they're not for you and their energy for you.
Not every message that comes up on your FYP is for you. I just want to put that out there.
Yes, I love that. Especially when you see the videos saying, if you see this, it's not coincidence. And then they go on and it's like, oh, but I don't really feel your energy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just because it's on there, like pops up, does not mean it's for you.
Yes, exactly. So let me ask you a question. Someone's like, what's the difference between a psychic and a medium? And can you be both?
Yeah. So every medium is a psychic. Not every psychic is medium. Okay. So a medium can communicate with any type of entity or spirit. A psychic usually, depends on the type of psychic, can usually only communicate with spirit guides, or maybe elementals, which would be like spirits of the earth. Like, if you believe in the Fae, or, any elemental spirit, gods and goddesses, if that is part of your practice. But mediums specifically can communicate with those who have crossed over, or who are earthbound, but have physically moved on.
Yeah. No, thanks for that easy explanation. Because a lot of people here get confused. Like, are they the same? Like, I don't think they're the same.
They're not the same. No, every medium is a psychic. Not every psychic is a medium. So me as a psychic medium. So if someone calls themselves a medium, they're a psychic also. They just may not say psychic medium because the terms are, they're not synonymous. So, but mediumship just encompasses, I can talk basically to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And is it true that like when you're a medium, you are using your psychic abilities to communicate? Is that a true
Correct. Yes. You are engaging your third eye and your crown chakra.
Gotcha. Okay. A lot of people are asking, I'm like, don't believe everything you see on Google too. That doesn't mean everything you see is true.
Yeah. You have to realize too, like a lot of the information, it doesn't have like definitive facts, right? It's not science yet. I'm hearing yet. Maybe it will be soon. A lot of the information that's out there in the spiritual community regarding psychic gifts is anecdotal, right? It's just feedback from people who have had experiences, and then you're starting to see trends and patterns. So your experience is so individualistic and unique to you. So you kind of got to take what you read with a grain of salt, because again, there's just the black hole of Google, right? And that's why it's so important when I say, like, finding someone who is using their gift that you feel connected to in the heart space, right? Because using your discernment is a lesson that we are all given to learn, but especially those people who are gifted, because you're able to read energy, but you have to know what energies to trust and allow in your space, and what energies to not.
Yeah, I love that. And that goes for anything, even outside of we take out the word spiritual, right? Like and I always tell people, like, you meet someone, if you don't like them or not, they know if they like you or not. It's the same thing, right? Because when you put the word spiritual on it, people are like, whoa, it's too much. Like, that's creepy, So, and I like that you explain like that, because it's really, do you vibe with them? Do you like them? And and another thing, how can you tell if somebody's legit, right? Even if they have a ton of followers, how do you know if there's someone that can help you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Again, it's such an energy thing.
Mhm.
right? It's a discernment. You have to trust your intuition. Because a lot of these people who say that they're psychics, mediums, healers, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's just shitty people in the world. Like, let's just
Yeah.
put that out there. Like, no matter what niche you're in, there are just crappy people. And it's very easy to take advantage of people who are vulnerable, who are looking for healing, who are looking for answers or clarity, right? Especially when bad things are happening to them or challenging times in their life. So what I would say is, any healer, psychic, medium, who slips into your DMs and is asking you to book a reading, don't trust that. Okay. Any true healer or spiritualist is going to trust the universe. The universe is going to guide who is meant to work with you to reach out to you directly as the healer. So not once in my entire spiritual career have I slipped into someone's DMs and said, "Oh, I feel you should book a reading with me." No, I don't do that whatsoever.
Mhm.
Um, Also, again, this is such a tough question because it's such a discernment thing.
Yeah.
Like, you really gotta, and listen, I've had so many people tell me about like scammer accounts, people pretending to be me, or paying money for a reading from someone that reached out to them in their DMs and they lost a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that's your lesson. You know what I mean? Like, some people just are meant to go through that tough lesson and learn from it. And others are, able to tap into their intuition and discern whether to engage with that person's energy or not.
Yeah. And I love that you say that because my inbox is insane. Like I feel this energy around you. I'm like, okay, that sounds like BS.
Yeah. It is.
They keep messaging me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, no. So I just like block them. And I like they say that because and then I was on watching someone's live yesterday and it was someone was spamming and they were
Hmm.
saying they were a psychic. And I was like, okay, this doesn't seem legit because if you're a true psychic, a healer, why do you have to go and spam everybody?
Hmm.
So I like
100%.
that to remind people to be careful and don't let them take your money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Safeguard your finances from the scammers.
Yes, and find the people who are really trying to help you.
Right, exactly. So a big reason why I transitioned from, because I don't really do private readings anymore. I really have to feel aligned with the person who's requesting it. So a big reason why I shifted from readings and primarily one-on-one work and shifted into workshops and classes is because I wanted to bring value to people that they could carry with them after working with me,
Mm.
right? It's the same strategy I use when I work with people with regard to nutrition, right? I want to give them sustainable strategies and tools to carry with them after they work with me, because their ongoing success is my objective,
Mhm.
right? I don't want them to just be successful when they're working with me and then fall off after the course is over, the class, workshop, whatever they're doing with me. So I find that a lot of reputable and trustworthy psychic mediums, healers, et cetera, will offer workshops, classes, group things where they're giving something of value to educate their community, and help them continue their healing journey, whether they stay within that community or not.
Mm.
So, for example, my tarot school, I have a private group community. For my Reiki certifications, I have a private group community, and also for the How to Be a Healer workshop. So I interact with those groups still, even though people finish their certifications, the class, whatever it is. Because I want to consistently provide that value, but they also, have that support and can also share their progress and successes for any of the new people that are coming in. So there's this nice like recirculation of support and love, and acceptance in all of the communities that I'm building.
I love that. So it's like just because the sessions are over with you or the workshop doesn't mean that there's no more communication. You're out of it. You're not kicked out.
Exactly.
Mm. Yeah, I like that community, right? Because that's something so huge. Someone's wanting to step into, even if they wanted a reading, right? A lot of times, I hear people saying, like, I want a reading, but I don't really believe in it, so I'm not going to do it, and then they hesitate. But have you found when you've done readings that it really helps somebody through their life?
Definitely.
Mm.
So the readings that I do, I call it tough love tarot.
Mhm.
Because I am a very direct person. Like if you want to hear what you need to hear, get a reading with me because I'm not going to bullshit you.
Mhm.
Um, and my readings center around progression on your healing journey, right? Facing the tough stuff. Or any guidance that your spirit guides want to deliver through me to help you move forward in your life and grow as a person. Um, so yes, like reading, I only do readings of that nature because I feel like I used to do, to be fully transparent, in the beginning of my business, I did do career readings, I did do financial readings, I did the love readings and all of that fun stuff. Now I've very much shifted out of that because I found that when I did readings to regarding any external issues,
Mhm.
um, people would come back and just want more and more and more and more and more and more. More questions, more questions, more questions. When I redirected the readings and I went inward and helped people focus on how to shift internally, I discovered that by helping people shift internally, their external reality was shifting in conjunction with that. So when I do a reading with someone, I want it to be just one.
Yeah.
Okay. Like me, and if they want to do it like once a year, once every couple years, just to check in, cool.
Right.
But I don't want people, and I know it sounds crazy from a business perspective, but this is just how I operate. I don't want people to come back around and get like multiple readings from me.
Yeah.
Um, because I think honestly, it's not helpful.
Mhm. Right, to have, like, read like 6 readings back to back with you.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
actually, to give an example, I had a person I did a reading for, I think it was last September, and she paid for an additional reading in February or early March. So it really wasn't that long of a time. But the focus of the reading was specifically her love life and what this person in her life was going to do, how were things going to pan out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I told her, stop focusing on that person and the external, and you're not going to be able to attract love from another, like genuine unconditional love, until you give it to yourself, because you
Yeah.
can't attract in your environment what you do not first give to yourself internally. Okay,
Mhm.
that's just a universal law.
Yeah.
So when I agreed to do the second reading, because I had to check with my spirit guides about that, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. um I did the reading based on redirecting her inward.
Mm.
And it was much more helpful to her than me doing a reading. And also, it's very unethical to tap into another person's energy in tarot, or just in a reading in general, if you don't have their permission. So
Mhm.
tapping into that person's energy that she was talking about is just unethical.
Yeah.
Um, from a reader perspective. Um, but again, it's more helpful to have like one reading where you're guided to focus on yourself and the action steps that you should take, rather than giving you answers to external circumstances, because that's just going to lead to more questions and more fixation on your external reality, which again is just a reflection of you internally.
Yeah. No, 100%. Wow.
Mm.
Big kudos to you for doing that. Like, do I want to read this person again? And how do I help
Yeah,
them?
because it also goes along with manifestation, right? Like I don't chase business.
Yeah.
Like that is not why I do what I do.
Mhm.
I truly and utterly believe, and it's been shown to me on my balance sheet, like year after year, that I do this when I trust in the universe to deliver the people I'm meant to help into my life. It translates to my my external success in my business.
Yeah.
So no, I will never fish for readings. I'll never like say like, yeah, well, you got this reading, so maybe we should book like 3 more over the next like 6 months or whatever. No, if you want to come to me for an additional reading, you can ask me and I'll tell you yes or no.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love how you're just upfront and honest. You keep it real.
Because I'm not looking to waste my time and I'm not looking to waste anyone else's time, right? Like I
Wow.
just it doesn't make any sense. Like I am very, very aware of where I place my energy. And if I don't feel like it's conducive to my growth first and to the growth of the person that's requesting, I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. And when
Mhm.
you transition, from like a 9 to 5 to doing your business,
Mhm.
at that in between phase, how did you know, like, this is the moment, like, I'm ready to take this on?
Um, because I was scared shitless.
Yeah.
I've told this story before, so my followers will definitely know, but when I decided to start the Holistic Siren, and I did my first post, it was on Instagram, and I remember the day so vividly. It was in April of, I think it was 2020. And I went to a hiking trail that I used to hike a couple times a week. I'm an avid hiker. And I was sitting in my car and I was watching like the sunset and I was bawling my eyes out because I was so scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, like once I do this, I know there's like no going back.
Yeah.
Um, and what was running through my head was, oh my gosh, my family's going to see this, like my friends, and I hadn't really spoken about it openly. So I was like, I'm an all or nothing person. Like I'm an Aries. So I just like leap and just see
Yeah.
what happens. So after just sitting in my car crying and being a little scared, I hopped on Instagram and I made a video post and I did my first oracle card reading. And once I did that and I got a really positive response,
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this really wasn't that bad, as
Yeah.
bad as I was like playing it out in my mind. I mean, did I get some judgment? Yeah, but it wasn't anything that I couldn't handle.
Hmm. For sure. Wow.
Yeah.
I love that you said, because you were like scared shitless. Like, oh, that means I got to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I wasn't always this like, hey guys, like on YouTube and TikTok. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just here casually reading tarot and like
Right.
delivering messages from like dead people. Like
Yeah.
I was not always that person.
Yeah.
I was actually very shy and very timid
Aw.
about my gifts. The person you see now, this confidence built over the last 3 years.
Mm.
Consistency. Like I was not always motivated, but I was always consistent, which was the key.
Yeah. I love that you say that too, because people see the end, like that, where you're at today. Like, look at her
Yeah.
glowing and she's successful. And like, it
Yeah.
must have been easy like that. But you sharing your journey, it took time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was a process
Mm-hmm.
to get to this far.
100%. Yeah, it took time, but I will say, and I will encourage your viewers or anyone who watches or listens to this, is the quicker you allow yourself to take a leap of faith, regardless if you're afraid or not,
Mm.
the quicker you're going to see progression.
Mm.
Like I took a big risk stepping away from a 9 to 5, taking a whole year off because I was able to. I know not everyone's able to do that. But if you're wanting to take a risk, do it. Because when I did that, not only did I feel really good about myself and I grew as a person, logistically, my business boomed like
Mm.
right away. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it was pretty instantaneous. So, that's why I encourage people so much. Like, please step out of your comfort zone, take the risk, because either way, you're going to learn something.
Yeah, no, I love that, because some people are like, it's cozy here though. You might be like, Jack, I'm not going to do it. This is what
Yeah.
I'm used to. But hearing
Mm-hmm.
your journey and your story, that it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you
100%.
believe in yourself. That's why you're where you are today.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And did you have mentors along your journey, or were you self-taught to get to
Yeah.
where?
So, mediumship wise, I am completely self-taught.
Mm.
Tarot, completely self-taught. I did take some online courses to learn like how to read tarot, the meanings of the cards, like the textbook meanings, how to do different spreads, et cetera, et cetera. But over time, I've developed my own style.
Mhm.
As far as mentors, it's funny because I have two very, very strong female mentors. One who helps me with regard to more of like my psychic abilities and my clairvoyance and channeling with my spirit guides. And then the other who has actually been my mom in a past life 3 times.
Wow.
And she's an older individual, but she helps me with my mediumship primarily, and also my craft as a witch.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so it just really shows everyone's journey really is different, because I've talked to people who are like, oh, I have a ton of mentors and I
Mhm.
haven't been self-taught at all, or people who are a mix like you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find that I guess you could consider these people a mentor. Like I only watch probably 2 readers consistently that I
Mhm.
respect, that have been doing this longer than I have.
Mhm.
Not only because I like their reading style, but I also learn a lot from them with regard to their interpretation of the cards, but also through their energy and how they progress in their own in their business, but on their journeys as well. So I guess I would call them mentors too. So I would say like 4 mentors, 2 of which I actually interact with one-on-one, and then 2 that I watch. But again, that engagement, like energetically, is very important. And I'm very selective with that.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. So it's like, you no need to brain dump and watch everyone out there who does something you're interested in.
Exactly. Yeah, because that's just going to lead to more confusion.
Mhm.
Right? Because everyone has their own style. I mean, there are so many different types of healing modalities, and there are new healing modalities coming out constantly now. So being very selective with and making sure you align and resonate with who you're watching or engaging your energy with, that's going to be the biggest indicator on the direction that you're meant to go.
Yeah, 100%. So it's just like in the spiritual world, just like life coaches, there's a ton of life coaches. Everyone's
Mhm.
style is so different. And I
Mhm.
and I love your energy, because I'm always like, if you don't want to hear the real shit, then you don't want to work with me, because
Mhm.
it's not going to help you if you don't want to hear what's really happening, why your life is where it's at. So I love your approach too. You're just honest up front. Like, hey, this is your reading and this is what I'm telling you. And have
Mhm.
you ever experienced where someone's actually upset at you because your reading's not what they wanted to hear?
That's a really good question. The fact that I have to think about it, no.
That's a good
I've
thing.
never yeah, I've
Yeah.
never had so the only like I wouldn't even call it negative. I would just say that it didn't resonate. The only time I ever see that type of feedback is on a collective reading on a TikTok live. I go live almost every morning. But I'm also reading for like 500 to 700 people all
Mhm.
at once. So
Yeah.
yeah, not everything I say is going to hit for everybody, right? Because it's just so many people and there's just so
Oh.
many messages coming through. I can only say so many messages at once.
Mhm.
Um, but other than that, I don't think I've ever done a reading where it didn't resonate a little bit. Now, have there been times where not everything I said resonated? Of course. And
Yeah.
that can be very intimidating, especially if you're new. But even if you're not, like that still can be slightly intimidating to me now. But a lot of times when that happens, it's either because the person you're reading is skeptical or they're blocked in some way. Um, they're not meant to hear the message at that time. So their spirit guides will block it, or there's just some like self-doubt or lack of confidence within the reader themselves that they need to overcome.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. When you know, think about it, I'm like, oh, maybe you haven't had any bad experience. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I honestly like everything I thought about in that car before I did that first post, all the negative things, they haven't happened.
Right. Wow.
Honestly, like I've gotten some like negative comments like on my YouTube videos and stuff like that, but nothing to where I was like, I need to stop doing what I'm doing.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So, so you also mentioned you teach Reiki. So do you feel
Yeah.
like learning Reiki and having that ability to has helped you with your mediumship and psychic abilities?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was able to tap in with my gifts and develop them much faster. after I became attuned to Reiki 1, 2, and the master level. Because essentially what you're doing with Reiki attunements at the different levels, you are just blasting open your chakras. And when that happens, you have to release and face your own shit, like all of it. But what that does is that clears out all the noise energetically, and it makes you a lot more receptive to messages, guidance, connections with higher level entities, human spirits, et cetera, et cetera. It also has really shown me, especially at the Reiki Master level, it's shown me my purpose in this life and how I'm meant to use my gifts to be of service. So Reiki, I would encourage, like, if you feel drawn to it, right? Like, it's not for everybody, which is totally fine. But I would recommend becoming a Reiki practitioner, because the healing is for you first. Like in Reiki 1 and 2, I teach people that the Reiki is for you first, right? So like I practice Reiki on myself every single morning. Like I am clearing my energy centers every single day, because that's for me, right? And you can choose to help others through Reiki if you become attuned, but you don't have to. Like that's the beauty of it. It's such a versatile healing practice.
I love that you say that, because a lot of people think that if you're learning any kind of Reiki, you have to actually perform on other people. But
Right.
yeah.
Right. Well, that goes to the societal like conditioning where you have to give to others before you give to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So the practice of Reiki is actually giving to the self so you can give to others if you choose to.
Yeah. I love that you say that, because it's a choice, right? Just because you sign up to do something or you learn, it doesn't mean you have to do it, right? Like how many of us gone to college for a certain degree and we're not doing that anymore?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, because we went through and I like how you say, like, that was like the path you went down, because so many of us are going down this, path that's supposed to be the path for us, 9 to 5, and, get married, have kids, and then have this home and be happy, and I'm like, there's so much more to life than just that.
100%. So much more, so much more.
Yeah. So I love that. Thanks for bringing in your knowledge and your insight. So what last piece of advice would you want to give to the listeners? Anything that comes to mind that you want to share?
Oh, that's such a good question. Be yourself. That is coming in very, very big. And when I say be yourself, I mean be yourself in your entirety. Know that your gifts, your experience in life, it means something. It means something on your healing journey. It means something to so many people who are struggling and suffering out there, who are going through or have experienced something similar, and to do it even though you're afraid. And I know that will resonate for people just by me saying that, so I'll leave it there, but do it even though you're afraid.
Oh, I love that. We're just gonna drop the mic right there. Thank you.
Yeah, I call it a card drop moment on TikTok Live because I'm using cards, but yeah, a mic drop moment.
And I love that. So tell the listeners like how they can find you on TikTok, what's your name, and on YouTube and Instagram and all that.
Yeah, so my name across all platforms is the same. It's The Holistic Siren. So the THE, and then holistic is WHOLISTIC, and then siren, SIREN. So it's theholistiksiren.com, which is my website. Or again, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, you can find me, The Holistic Siren.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. And I'll put it down below so everyone follow Jack. She's a beautiful soul. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jack.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Gail, for having me. I really appreciate you and your energy.
Thank you so much.